Welcome to the Gay Buddhist Forum, where teachers from all schools of Buddhism offer their perspectives on the Dharma and its application in modern times, especially for LGBTQI audiences. These talks are offered freely to the world and made possible by appreciative listeners. If you would like to support our efforts to share the Dharma with underserved audiences, please visit gaybuddhist.org. There you can donate, find a list of upcoming speakers, or enjoy many hundreds of these recorded talks dating back to 1996.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome again to the Gay Buddhist Fellowship. Our speaker today is Dave Richo, and let me just introduce Dave. He's a friend of the Sangha, spoken many times before, a psychologist, teacher, and writer in Santa Barbara and San Francisco who emphasizes Jungian, transpersonal, and spiritual perspectives in his work. He is the author of How to Be an Adult in Relationships. For more information, visit www.davericho.com. Dave, we're turning it over to you now.
All right. So my topic is love and how our way of showing and receiving love in adult life is connected directly to how we experience love early in life. And then, as I go along, I will show how this dovetails with our Buddhist teachings and practice. And we could say that when we came into the world, the day of our birth, we certainly had many needs and no words to express these needs. We could only communicate our needs through various kinds of cries. And the very first cry, of course, was when we took our first breath, no longer having to be connected to the umbilical cord. And from that moment on, we certainly felt needs, and we needed caretakers who would be able to respond to them 100%. So it is appropriate at some time in life to look for 100% fulfillment from others, in this case, caretakers. For most of us, this meant our two parents or one parent, but it could also mean any family or friendly presences who responded to us. And of these many needs, I choose 5 particular ones that will help us see the connection between needs and the experience of love. So the very first need was the need for attentiveness. Somebody had to be listening and looking all day long, all night long, and noticing what we were demanding. Sometimes we needed to be fed, sometimes we needed to be held, and sometimes we needed to be changed. And we had to let those 3 be known, and our caretakers had to understand the difference between the 3 types of cries, which mothers especially are biologically attuned so that they could respond. The second need is the need for holding, for affection. In fact, now we know that the brain only develops in the context of physical holding. And so wanting that was the same as wanting to evolve. Wanting to be held was the same as wanting to grow as a human. Thirdly, they would have had to appreciate us in the sense that they valued us, that we mattered as little persons rather than that we could only matter if we could fit their mental representation of who we were supposed to be. And that leads to the fourth need, which is the need for full acceptance of us just as we are. And this need would have started to show itself when we exhibited personality characteristics. We're more delicate, we're more like little toughies, we're introverted, we're extroverted. When they started to see various qualities, did they accept them? Did they welcome them? Or did they try to restrict us and reorient us in the direction that they thought was best? And in all of this, we're not having blame toward our parents. We're just noticing. So that's the mindful style. We notice without judgment. And finally, since being a human also means establishing some kind of independence so that we begin to caretake ourselves, the first part of the loving kindness practice in Buddhism. It all started when we crawled across the floor and they saw, oh, David no longer needs to be carried across. He's able to get himself across. If they interrupted this, picked us up and said, no, I'll carry you across, then our need fulfillment would have been, shall we say, interrupted. Also, the first day we went to school, once again, we were leaving the nest and we were doing something independently. When our parents were okay with that, which I'm sure they were, then that need for being allowed to be yourself and to go is fulfilled. And of course, we kept showing independence, especially in adolescence. And then when we finally left home altogether, we still wanted instinctively to feel that that was okay with them. We might have been rebellious, but somewhere inside we knew that it was okay to launch out on your own. Now, these 5 needs, I call the 5 A's since they all begin with A. So it's attention, affection, appreciation, acceptance, and allowing. And those are the needs that we instinctively had and that our parents would instinctively have known that they were supposed to fulfill. And at first we needed it 100%, but with every passing year, we needed it a little less. Now, when we reach adulthood and we start establishing relationships with friends or intimate relationships, we're looking for exactly the same 5 things. We want somebody who pays attention to us, shows us affection in appropriate ways, could include sex or not, in accord with the agreement that you both make, or more than two. You want somebody who appreciates you instead of taking you for granted. You want somebody who accepts you just as you are, rather than rejecting certain parts of you. And you certainly want somebody who allows you to live in accord with your own deepest needs and wishes, rather than somebody who controls you. The difference is that now as adults, we have many resources. So instead of trying to get all of those 5 all the time from someone, we ask for a lot less. And I want to give a little summary of what I've been saying. Then I'll open it up for questions. So we're on the topic of love, its origins in early life, and then how it shows up now. And we're going to see that this is interwoven with Buddhist teachings and practices. Our main needs in childhood were for attention or attentiveness, affection shown in physical ways, but appropriately, in other words, non-sexually at the beginning. And the sexual part would come in later with the outside world, not with family. Then appreciation, being valued. Then acceptance of you, of your personality characteristics, and then allowing you to make the choices that go with your personality. Those are separate. Opposite of acceptance is rejection. Opposite of allowing is controlling. And these 5 A's also give us a working definition of love. We have the exact same needs in adult relationships that we had in childhood. I know you love me when you give me these 5 A's. You know I love you when I give these 5 A's to you. When we receive these 5 A's, we feel loved. And when we give them, we are showing love. That is our loving kindness practice. Intimacy happens when we give and receive the 5 A's at the same time with the same person or people. So how do you know what intimacy is? It's the giving and receiving of these 5. And we need the fulfillment of these 5 needs when we're adults only in good enough ways, but we need them fulfilled all the time in childhood. But in adulthood, we only need them fulfilled most of the time, or even some of the time. So that would be a little summary of what we talked about so far. And I want to check in with you to find out your questions. So anything you want to add or check in with me about?
I have a question.
Albert and Jesus.
Hubbard. I have a couple of questions.
Yeah.
One directly to what you just talked about. And I think, I liked your example, I guess is the best way to put it, of the mother who biologically is attuned to these cries. And I thought of myself often crying in different ways. And how do we attune ourselves to recognize that particular cry, whether coming from ourselves or from the other person, that what the other person wants is attention, or the other person, rather than having them come back and say, you don't appreciate me, you never pay attention to me. How do we recognize, or how do we attune ourselves to those needs, sometimes in ourselves, because we can act out in different ways when we're not getting the intimacy, or we're not getting the attention, or the other person's not allowing me to be who I am. as an individual. Do you have any sort of suggestions? Do you go by what you're feeling about yourself as far as the other person is concerned, or how do you spot it? Some people are not as expressive. They won't say, I need intimacy right now, or I need you to leave me alone, which is allowing. Does that make any sense?
Yes, it does. And thank you. And of course, we have words now. So assertiveness would become part of relationship. The ability to ask for what you want in so many words, rather than expect the partner to be a mind reader. I would, if I want to be in relationship with others, which is our social nature, all part of who we are, with that comes the requirement that we somehow show what we're looking for, and we say ouch when somebody does not accept us, tries to restrict us, and so forth. And just sitting down with a partner or a friend and saying, hey, let's look at these 5 A's and ask ourselves if we're giving them to each other in the ways that we really need from each other. Just to be able to say that would be enormously helpful. So, and also to be checking in with the other person. Hey, what do you need more of? What do you need less of? This would all be part of the loving kindness practice too. Did you have some other type of question that you wanted to ask? Albert?
Well, the other one is sort of something that hasn't been mentioned yet, and that is trust. How does trust play into this?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked that, because I should have mentioned it before. The origin of trust is the experience that being in the world rather than in the womb, being out here in the world, your needs are recognized, attuned to, and fulfilled in good enough ways. It doesn't have to be perfect. In good enough ways. What are good enough ways? You feel basically content. Trust is the sense of safety and security in the household that you find yourself in. It's safe to be here. They are not abusing me. They are not using me for something other than, they're not using me at all. They're respecting my presence and welcoming my presence. And I feel secure here. I feel as if they're going to keep me. They're not going to give me away, abandon me, reject me, turn on me. When you have this experience very early, which in psychology is called basic trust, you would carry that with you for the rest of your life. You would trust that other humans can come through. Gradually, you would realize they don't always come through, and you would let that be okay, because that's just one of the givens of human limitation. But yes, the 5 A's add up to the realization that you are in a trustworthy setting. In psychology, this is called the holding environment. I'm in an environment in which I feel held, welcomed, fulfilled, safe, and secure. I'm going to go on to talk about what happens when these needs are fulfilled and when they're not fulfilled. So I'll get on to that. But for now...
Thank you.
That answers your question? Okay.
Yes, it does.
Good. Jesus?
Thank you. Very interesting talk. I have a comment more than a question. I don't think the observation that women are biologically set to be sensitive to respond to the cry of a child is correct. I think that's what some science and some patriarchal science wants us to believe. I raise a child. My husband and I have a son. And I can tell you, you become attuned to the needs of the person that you're taking care of, regardless
That's
of
a good point. Mm-hmm.
Regardless of your genitalia.
So it just comes with parenting. As doesn't have to be male, female.
I believe so.
That makes sense. Thank you. I like that. All right, John.
Yeah, thank you for that. The allowable state or quality, the allowing quality. Yeah. I find, when you first said that, I was thinking that, about separation.
Allowed
separation,
to separate,
individuation.
Right.
But I think for me as an adult, the task has been to bring separation and connection together so that I can be separate and connected at the same time. And that's been true for me on my spiritual path and also on my interpersonal path, that I needed to find my way back to being interconnected as an adult. That was really a fundamental instinctual need that I had that wasn't being met just by being separate. I don't know what your thoughts are about that.
Fits very well with the heroic journey that we go through a series of struggles, and then we come back to where we began. And as T.S. Eliot says, we know it and for the first time, we know it in a new way. And yes, it's not about total separation. It's about being separate enough to get your sea legs as an individual, and then you reconnect, but it's a choice because you're going to choose whom you're going to reconnect with. That's also part of our freedom. And we're going to reconnect with those who respect us and accept us and so forth. We're not forced to reconnect with everybody in our past just because they're in it. And then, of course, you also establish a new set of family connections among your friends. Does that fit with what you're saying?
Yeah, it does. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. So, when the needs were fulfilled in the good enough way, in early life, not only did we receive need fulfillment, we received something much, much more wonderful. It's the capacity to be satisfied with what humans can give. When they are sincerely giving what they can, we have the capacity to get it. This is what they can give. And it happens to be good enough at the same time. And I can be contented with this need fulfillment. So when our caretakers did come through with the 5 A's, not only did we find ourselves glad that that was happening, but we also noticed that now inputted into our whole being, it was there anyway, but they activated it, was the ability to be satisfied. And that's directly connected to the Buddhist truths that we live in an unsatisfactory world. But if we can accept the fact that it's unsatisfactory in some ways, we can make the best of it. So we notice that They fulfilled our needs, but not perfectly, hence unsatisfactory. But even though it was somewhat unsatisfactory, we have the capacity to be okay with their limitations. If the needs were not fulfilled in good enough ways, we weren't given these 5 A's, or we weren't given some of them, and all you need is to receive them 2 or 3 times for the installation of the capacity to be taken care of for the rest of your life. And it can come from grandma, grandpa, older brother, older sister, teacher, anybody. But sometime in childhood, you received all 5. But if you didn't receive them, then you would have this bottomless pit where you're always trying to find the fulfillment from others. And you notice that no matter how much you get, you still feel unsatisfied. And so you didn't receive the capacity for contentment. And of course, that's not, doesn't have to be depressing to hear, because we can work on ourselves in therapy, for instance, or even among each other. We can work on grieving the past, grieving, feeling sad and angry about what we didn't receive, not with blame, mindfully. And when we do that over and over again, gradually we install the capacity to be with other humans in the only way they can be with, which is as limited. And so we ask for less instead of constantly asking for more. When the needs were fulfilled, we're satisfied with a moderate dose for the rest of our life. When the needs were not fulfilled, at first, we have a bottomless pit, and we run around looking for some proof that we do matter, that we are worthy of being paid attention to, that we are worthy of affection, and so forth. Sometimes sex, sometimes you go through a period of life where you confuse sex with all that. And so you keep seeking one sexual experience after another, thinking that that will fulfill what was missing. But soon enough, you get it, that it takes a little more than that. It also takes looking back at childhood, grieving and letting go of all the misattunements, and letting go of blame and ill will, any need to retaliate, all out the window. And when that happens, you're able to relate in a healthier way. So this fits also with the Buddhist teaching about not getting too attached. Too attached would mean trying to get more than the reasonable adult dose from anyone else. What we want is secure attachment while we're also getting need fulfillment from ourselves, our friends, our family, our work, our practice, our connection with art. All of these give us some kind of fulfillment. We don't have to get it all from one person, even when we're in a relationship. So I'm going to check in for any questions on this part, so we can all be on the same page as we move along. So I've got Jay and then Carlos. Go ahead, Jay.
Hi there, Dave. Thank you. I spent my career for 34 years teaching elementary school and middle school children, and many of them some of my students from time to time had a history of having been adopted from places where maybe they were not getting the attention, affection, appreciation in an orphanage where they might have grown up, anywhere from Russia to Lithuania, some other places where they're in an understaffed environment. And it seemed to me that they were living these lives of what you refer to as this bottomless pit of needs, where nothing could satisfy them in that regard. And I just wonder how you might react to that, maybe with any of your personal knowledge.
Well, it really fits. It makes perfect sense. And this is where our practice of compassion comes in. We're going to feel compassion for those whom we notice just can't be fulfilled, no matter how much we give them. And we're also feeling the self-compassion when we notice that we too just keep looking over and over again for something and never finding fulfillment in it. That's how you know that the capacity for fulfillment has somehow been misinstalled. I just happen to think of a line from Lawrence Durrell's wonderful tetralogy set of 4 books. And in the one, I think it's in the one called Justine, he's talking about Justine, who has had sexual relations with him and other people. And he says this, and now she's off on her own. And he says this, I hope she finds the peace she was looking for in our bodies. I thought, wow, that says it all. We were looking for some kind of peace, fulfillment, and we go to so many sources and don't quite find it. That's the clue that what we're looking for is something that we missed early on and that can only be made up for when we have worked through what happened in the past. One of my books is called When the Past is Present. Title says it all. Because the past is always present in all relationships. Okay, did I answer, Jay? You're not...
Yes, you did. Yes, thank you.
Okay. All right. Carlos?
Thank you. The thoughts that have been coming to my mind relate to issues of sort of transcendence. And I'm wondering, are we moving in a direction here where, I don't like to use the word goal necessarily, but is reaching or attaining a higher degree of awareness going beyond any of these needs? There's the stereotype of sort of the monk who's been meditating in a cave for years, of individuals who are at peace, almost as if they don't need any attention, no need for affection, no need for appreciation, no even need for acceptance or any allowance. It's almost as if these needs just fade into the background and they just don't cease to be any needs. And I guess the question is, is there an element of, I don't want to say wanting or striving or desiring to go in that direction, but there's an undercurrent here of these are sort of keeping one almost sort of in a cage, and you want to get rid of them. And I'm not sure, is that an implication of this? I'm trying to put this with Buddhist practice, and I'm finding myself saying, where does this go? Yeah.
Well, that would be a million miles from my quote from the Alexandria Quartet about Justine. yeah, there are some people whose practice and calling has led them to transcend these human needs. And so that can happen. Seems like for us who live out in the world, our goal is not to let go of the needs, but to acknowledge them and to find healthy ways to fulfill them, especially through our practice, through our sangha, through our friendships, through whatever it may be that puts us in the situation in which we would be attended to, appreciated, held affectionately, and so forth. But yes, you also have the option of going beyond it all. And I would say it's a special calling. Does that make sense to you, Carlos?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Okay. Greg?
Hi, my question was answered. So thank you very much. I really appreciate your talk. It's very stimulating and helpful, especially right now in my life.
For all of us. Okay, so I'm going to ask Jeff now to show us what you're going to see is my YouTube, in which I go deeper into the topic and adjust your sound. You're going to be hearing music by Beethoven. Just adjust your sound to the way you want it. Okay, my fellow daredevils. Anything came up that you want to share?
It's a really beautiful meditation. Is that video available on your website, Dave?
Yeah, but it's also on YouTube. Just go to my
YouTube.
name and put in, I think the title is Love or On Love.
Wonderful.
And yeah, you can share the link with other people if you want. Okay, let's take a look here for questions. Albert, did you have another comment?
No, that was very nice, but you're right. I would want to turn down the volume. It was a little distracting.
Yeah, you have to lower it to fit your...
And it's a lovely piece, but yeah.
Thank you. All right, so the video attempts to, go a little deeper into our topic. And I especially wanted to get across the wonderful realization that this capacity we have inside for loving and receiving love is reliable. And no matter what happened to us in the past, it remains, shall we say, available. So thank you all for your attention. I'll just end with this short poem by Edwin Markham. They drew a circle to shut me out, called me heretic, rebel, a thing to flout. But love and I had the wit to win. We drew a circle and brought them in. So, thank you all.
Thank you very much, Dave. We'll have some announcements, and then Dave will offer the dedication of merit. So announcements. Next week is our is open discussion next Sunday. We'll break into small groups for discussion. We also have meetings on Wednesday night. Same time, 7:30. Same login information. as this meeting. Donna is the Pali word for generosity. So Donna helps us meet the expenses of our order of our Sangha, and to pay for the newsletter and the
Speakers.
Other expenses. $10 to $20 is just a donation. I've put the link to our website and where the address for checks in the chat. Now would be a good time to do it before, just as we leave the meeting. So, any other announcements?
I have a question.
Yes, Jim.
Yeah. Dave, thank you for the beautiful presentation. What was the Beethoven that was the score?
He wrote 2 romances for violin. That was number 2.
Thank you. Thank you again.
Such a gay question. Any other business before we have a dedication of merit? Okay, hearing none. Dave, would you offer the dedication of merit?
By the power of this and of all our practices, may we greet the dawn of love and contentment, and may we always be loyal to those who are still lost in the sunset of hate and craving.
Amen.
Thank you so much. So Dave's website is www.davericho.com, RICHL. Thank you for attending.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me.
Thanks, Dave.
I'll hang around a little longer if anybody has any other questions.
Bye-bye.
So long.
Goodbye. Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to the Gay Buddhist Forum. If you would like to hear several new talks per month and be notified of upcoming speakers so you can participate live, please subscribe to this podcast, like us on Facebook, and join our mailing list by visiting gaybuddhist.org.